Hello. And as you can tell by the music that I'm using behind there, I'm definitely bringing the heat. I'm bringing the fire. And I'm bringing the funk for this one. I finally got around to reading this article from Vice, which I actually like their TV show and some of their specials and stuff. But this mess, oh my God, they are definitely infected by the SJWs and by so-called wokeness. Let me tell you something, man. This is getting so old and lame, and a lot of these companies that was trying to cater to these groups who don't watch half their programming anyway are starting to see their pockets become a little lighter because people silently are getting sick and tired of wokeness. They just want to sit down and watch TV to be entertained. Okay? And I've already done 2 videos on this whole Dave Chappelle thing. But you know what? What I'm going to do is read this article word for word. And I will be stopping sometimes and throw in my commentary on certain things. The article is entitled, "You Could Definitely Skip Dave Chappelle's New Netflix Special Sticks and Stones." The comedy doubles down on misogyny and transphobia in both the special and the hidden bonuses that follow. By Taylor Hodgkins. Dave Chappelle made a return to Netflix Monday with a new stand-up special, Sticks and Stones. Fans quickly realized that if you watch until the very end, the special has a secret epilogue called The Punchline. It's not so secret. It's in the bonus sections when you look down. As someone that's had Netflix for many years, it's not secret. It's not some hidden code that you have to punch in to get to it. Anyway, where Chappelle answers questions from the audience members who went to his separate Dave Chappelle on Broadway stand-up show last July. The special takes the comic's anti-wokeness shtick to a new level, and the whole thing is repetitive and exhausting enough that it's a slog to even make it to the Q&A. Oh boy, my brain's already fired. But anyway, I'll keep going. Chappelle's controversial 2017 Netflix specials like Age of Spin, Dave Chappelle Live at the Hollywood Palladium, and Equanimity and the Bird Revolution owned his voice as a comedian wary of progressive criticism. That voice is even sharper in his latest special. At one point in his routine, he says he doesn't believe Michael Jackson molested young children. He continues to say that if Jackson did it, the children should have felt lucky their first time was with the King of Pop, adding, quote, "Don't you know how good it must have felt to go to school the next day after that?" Unquote. You do realize it's jokes, right? And it's funny how you're calling this out when he has said stuff similar, like going all the way back to his stand-ups in the 2000s when they were still making, well, this is when the man was still living. You know, he has said stuff like this before, right? But he's always made it clear he never believed he did it. He says this stuff tongue-in-cheek. And besides, he's not the only one that doesn't believe he molested young children. A lot of people don't believe it now. But anyway, article goes on to say Chappelle also returned to his now infamous obsession with making fun of trans people, saying, "Trans people hate my guts, and I don't blame them. I can't stop writing jokes about the unquote." This time the jokes included asking the audience how funny it would be if he was actually a Chinese person stuck in a black man's body, which, you guessed it, also included a racist impression of a Chinese person. He also found time to defend fellow controversial comedians Kevin Hart and Louis C.K., painting them as victims of an overzealous call-out culture, which actually they were victims of an overzealous call-out culture. Which, by the way, let me speak right now on the so-called cancel culture. They always want to cancel everything. Like, for example, over a year ago, when Gladys Knight, the legendary Gladys Knight, wanted to do a special. Well, not a special. She volunteered to sing the national anthem at the NFL Super Bowl. And I know the social justice warriors, as well as the pro-blacks, or as I like to call them, the pro-whacks. I'll admit I stole that from Amazing Lucas. Wanted to talk about cancel Gladys Knight. I'm like, how you gonna cancel her? First of all, she's probably lost more money than most of you fools have ever seen. Second of all, let that woman get her money. Third of all, I'm for protest over police. Which, by the way, on a quick side note, I think people lost what that whole NFL protest was from Colin Kaepernick. It was about police brutality. It never really was about the NFL. As a matter of fact, if the media wouldn't have even paid no attention to it, I would dare say Colin Kaepernick probably still be playing NFL right now, and because no one would care. No one would care. And while I still support Mr. Colin Kaepernick, I also stand by people like Gladys Knight and Jay-Z that choose to make other moves. I mean, they're grown folks. They're grown people. They're not robots. They're not sheep. Anyway, back to this. The article goes on to say, by the time the Q&A plays at the end of the special, Chappelle has already shown his unapologetic approach to court and controversy. His answers put that into even starker view. He says that a white woman left one of his practices sets for the special at the Punchline Comedy Club in San Francisco, telling him, "I'm sorry, I was raped." Chappelle says he replies with, quote, "It's not your fault you were raped, but it's not my fault either. Ta-ta," unquote. To which the audience laughs raucously. I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced. As though that were a real punchline. Then he followed with a story about sparking an unlikely friendship with a trans woman who he says was laughing the hardest out of anyone at the trans joke in his practice set. The strange story of camaraderie between highlighted the common accusation that Chappelle is only interested in repairing his relationship with marginalized group if he doesn't have to change anything about himself. And why should he? He's been doing this type of I'll say this again. He's been doing this type of comedy for years. He's been doing it for years. Only now, in this so-called woke era, is it now a problem? And here's thank God, I'm at the end of this thing. The article ends by saying, Chappelle has always been a daredevil comedian, willing to take a controversial stance or downplay a serious controversy for laughs, including his early 2000 skits about R. Kelly's court trials on Chappelle's show. But now he chooses to blatantly ignore the historic criticism against his style of comedy and new, loud, and clear criticism of the trans community. His approach comes off like a defiant rejection of change at any cost, as he keeps going down this path, drawing attention to the worst aspects of his important career. The biggest cost will be tarnishing his own legacy. Okay, barring that he pulls a Chris Benoit and murders his wife and sons, or he's found out to be molesting children himself, how is this tarnishing his legacy? He's always been this way. He's always tarnishing how? How? Or as Kanye West said a few years ago, how, Sway? How? He's always been like this. It's only now it's a problem. Where were you guys years ago when he was saying this mess? He's always been saying this. I swear. These SJW warriors, these social justice warriors, want to come out, and these woke people want to come out and complain about everything, yet they want to be protected. You can't say nothing that they will find offensive. You can't speak up about anything that they will find offensive. No, guess what? You put your views out there, you being out there in the spotlight, you are open to criticism, just like me making this video. I'm sure there's going to be people that's going to come at me about some of the things I say in this video. But you know what? If you're going to put yourself out there, you better be ready to take the heat. Because some people will come for you. I mean, that's just how it is. Like for example, and everyone knows that's followed my videos knows I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Love it. I grew up a Marvel Comics fan. Been a Marvel Comics fan since the days of the Electric Company with Spidey Super Stories. And the old Spider-Man Nicholas Hammond TV show. Been a Marvel fan since then. But even I had to call out the BS with the film Captain Marvel. Which, by the way, in my opinion, it wasn't the worst movie I ever seen. It certainly wasn't fan four stick level. However, it had to be one of the most average films to make the money it did. Which I really believe it only made the money because it had the Marvel brand attached to it. Let this movie be released without the Marvel brand attached to it. Would it have made over upwards near $1 billion? Probably not. Because that movie was average. But I never saw a film on Rotten Tomatoes and all these other sites where you could go and critique movies and write reviews about movies that are in theaters. I've never seen a film that was so protected. To the point where Rotten Tomatoes and other sites were changing their policies. I've never seen a movie that was so protected in my life. I'm like, wait a minute. If this movie is really a game changer and so good, why did it need the extra protection? Why did it need the extra protection? Why? Wonder Woman didn't receive this, and it was well received. Not only by women, but by men too. I didn't see the Black Panther needing this protection. Or any of the other MCU films. I didn't see all the other DC films getting this protection. Although, quite frankly, some of them could have used it. Like Batman, Superman, or Justice League. They could have used it. But I'm just saying. I didn't see Logan get this kind of protection. And just to name a few. But, and I said Wonder Woman specifically because it was also a so-called woke female empowerment film. When in fact, I'm like, most of these people that are declaring it to be that way, apparently you've never studied your own character. You never studied the character because Wonder Woman has always been somewhat of a feminist icon. But she was feminist in the right way. She stood up for women when it was warranted. But she also did it without trashing the men. And sometimes she stood up for women against other women. And it kind of really disappointed me when Linda Carter herself, and you go back and find this, I'm sure it's still out there, when on that ill-fated Megyn Kelly hour on the NBC's The Today Show, when she got on there and pretty much went along with the feminist movement, talk about, oh, Wonder Woman was this and that. I was like, lady, you played that character for like 4 or 5 years. You of all people should know what that character is about. It really disappointed me that she said that. I mean, she's a grown woman, man. I just feel like she was just going on with agendas. But I don't know what's going on. Maybe she really believes that. But at the end of the day, she's entitled to her opinion. But at the same time, she along with other people, got to understand she going to get that smoke. She might get that smoke from some people. And going back to this with the Chappelle show, how you going to rag him for something he's been doing for years? He's been doing it forever. And where were these people when guys like, the old white comedian that died back in the day? I forgot his name, but he died like back in the 2000s, but he was like real controversial. Well, and he used to say stuff similar to what Dave Chappelle said, but where was the smoke on him? Where was the smoke on him? Dave Chappelle has always made fun of those type of topics. So this article from Vice, it says in its title, you could definitely skip Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special Sticks and Stones. Well, you could definitely skip this article because I just read word for word pretty much what the article says. You don't even need to look it up because quite frankly, this is just mind trash. This is mind toxin. It affects your brain. Ugh, my goodness.